You are 25 years old, and you're sitting across from your parents in a Michelin star restaurant.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right, so the ambiance is just perfect. But then they slide a legal waiver across the white tablecloth and just smile.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they inform you that you are adopted, that they are disowning you, and it is simply because your, quote, tax benefits have expired.
That is just brutal.
It really is. So how do you react, right? Do you cry? Do you scream? Well, if you are Paige Mercer, you do not even blink.
Not at all.
Nope, because the plain manila folder you are about to slide back across that table is going to leave them completely bankrupt.
It's just the ultimate reversal of fortune. And I think what makes this scenario so compelling is that, it's not a hypothetical.
Exactly. We are pulling this straight from a remarkably detailed account shared on the YouTube channel Calm Drama Stories. It's narrated by Paige herself. And the mission for our deep dive today goes far beyond just a wild family story.
Oh, absolutely. It's really a masterclass in the psychology of transactional relationships.
Yes. And we are going to decode the intricate legal mechanics of inheritance that completely blindsided her parents. And, we're going to explore the absolute unshakable power of a perfectly executed boundary.
Right, because to truly grasp the magnitude of that manila folder sliding across the table, we first have to understand the environment that forged Paige.
Which means looking at the arithmetic of a transactional childhood.
Yes, that word arithmetic.
It's exactly how Paige described it.
Right, exactly.
Let me just lay out what her birthdays looked like growing up. She would get a single candle shoved into a sweating, unrefrigerated grocery store cupcake.
A sweating cupcake. Wow.
Yeah, that her mother, Diane, just grabbed on the way home from work. Meanwhile, her cousin Brett, who was biologically related, or quote-unquote blood.
A word her family weaponized constantly, by the way.
Constantly. Well, cousin Brett got rented bounce houses and caterers passing out mini quiches on silver trays.
I mean, the disparity is glaring.
Yeah.
But the psychological conditioning is what is truly insidious here.
How so?
Well, when Paige was 8 years old, and she simply asked for a party like her cousins, her Aunt Renee knelt down and told her, "We can only do one nice thing a month, honey."
Oh, and Paige noted how sweet her aunt sounded in that moment, like how kind people can sound when they are calmly explaining your exact size to you.
Right. And abusive family systems, they often use that polite, reasonable-sounding language to enforce emotional starvation.
Emotional starvation, that's a great way to put it.
Because by framing basic affection as a scarce commodity, right, like a budget item, the adults shift the blame onto the child's desires. The child learns that their very existence is a financial burden.
And the result of that conditioning is just heartbreaking. By age 9, Paige just were asking for cake entirely.
Yeah.
She said she could see it made the arithmetic easier for everyone. She realized early on that a child who asks for less is cheaper than a child who asks for the same.
It's devastating.
It really is. I kept thinking of it like she was being treated as a depreciating rental property.
Oh, that's an interesting analogy.
Right, because her parents expected her to generate whatever social or financial value she was supposed to generate, but her own maintenance costs had to be kept as close to absolute zero as possible.
Yes, exactly. And children in these environments, they undergo a radical adaptation. Because they don't have the cognitive capacity to say, my parents are deeply flawed and lack empathy.
Right, an 8-year-old isn't thinking that.
Exactly. Instead, their survival mechanism kicks in and they say, I must be too expensive. I must take up too much space. They learn to shrink themselves.
Wow.
And most dangerously, they mistake being needed, which is essentially a conditional job description, for actual love.
Because being easy to manage felt like the only currency she had to buy her way into the family.
Precisely.
But, surviving that hyper-awareness of costs and rules, it didn't just traumatize Paige. It turned her into an incredibly observant, meticulous adult.
Oh, she was paying attention.
Oh, big time. She leaves the house at 18 with 2 duffel bags, puts herself through community college by working nights at a pharmacy, and eventually becomes a trusts and estates paralegal.
I mean, you can't write this stuff. She spends her adult life literally learning the legal language of who eats and who doesn't after someone dies.
Right. She spends her days drafting beneficiary designations, learning the exact mechanisms of wealth transfer.
Which means her parents, without realizing it, raised the very expert who would eventually dismantle them.
Yes. So let's look at how they tried to ambush her, because this brings us to the deposition at Van Terre.
Van Terre, the highly upscale restaurant.
Very upscale. Diane, the mother, shows up wearing her gray cashmere, which is a sweater. Paige notes she specifically reserves for funerals and board meetings.
A very telling wardrobe choice.
Very.
Well,
Now, leading up to this dinner, the family temperature had dropped. Aunt Renee had started heavily using the word blood in the family group chats to subtly exclude Paige from upcoming events.
and that slow freeze-out is a very common precursor to discard phases in toxic dynamics.
They were laying the groundwork.
Exactly. But then the mother calls with a voice, 3 degrees warmer than usual, insisting they celebrate Paige's 25th birthday properly.
And Paige's internal radar immediately flagged that warmth. She knew Diane only got generous when a spreadsheet told her the generosity would pay for itself.
She knew something was coming.
Right. So they sit down at the restaurant. Diane delivers this highly rehearsed script. She drops the adoption reveal, clearly waiting for Paige to hyperventilate or collapse into a puddle of tears.
Which she doesn't do.
No. And then, with a completely serene smile, Diane delivers the crushing blow. She says, "We only kept you for the benefits."
Just unbelievable cruelty. And Wesley, the father, then actually chimes in to explain the tax considerations and the early adoption subsidies they had received.
Yeah.
He defends the decision like an accountant, justifying a bold tax position to an auditor.
Okay, wait, I have to stop here because this is the part I genuinely cannot wrap my head around.
Yeah.
If they just wanted to cut ties, right. If she is no longer a useful asset to them, why do this at a fancy fine dining establishment?
It's a great question.
Like, why the massive public theatrics? They could have sent a certified letter or just had a cold conversation in their living room.
It seems counterintuitive to air dirty laundry in public, right? But from a psychological standpoint, this is a highly calculated control tactic.
Really?
Yes. Abusers leverage environment. By combining the profound emotional shock of an adoption reveal with a highly public upscale setting, they were banking on social norms.
Oh, because you don't scream, cry, or make a scene at Fanterre?
Exactly. They were trying to induce a state of paralysis. The goal was to shock her into compliance, creating so much internal panic and external social pressure that she would swiftly sign away her legal rights while she was too wounded to read the fine print.
Okay, wow. That makes so much sense. But that relies entirely on Paige being blindsided.
Right.
It relies on her being the submissive, shrinking 9-year-old they remembered. But they had a massive blind spot.
A huge one.
Because sitting right next to Paige's water glass is a plain manila folder. Paige doesn't cry, she doesn't gasp, she already knew she was adopted.
She knew because of her grandmother, Nana Ruth.
Yes, Nana Ruth had told her years ago. And Nana Ruth was the only person in that family who treated Paige like a human being.
The only one.
When Paige was 12 and crying because Cousin Brett called her not a real Mercer, Nana Ruth sat her down and said, "You were chosen sweetheart, not collected."
That distinction is just profound.
It really is.
Because collected implies acquiring an object for a shelf, or in this case, a ledger, but chosen implies an active desire for the person themselves.
Right. So Paige is sitting there, utterly calm, armed with the knowledge Nana Ruth gave her. The parents slide over a legal waiver for her to sign, formally cutting her out of their will.
And Paige just slides it right back.
She does. She looks at them and says, "You filed against the wrong instrument."
The parents' entire strategy shatters on that single legal phrase.
Seriously, break that phrase down for me because Paige opens her manila folder and reveals 3 things.
Okay, let's unpack it.
First, a retainer letter proving she already has her own legal counsel. Second, her original birth certificate. And third, the distribution schedule of the Ruth Mercer Family Trust.
Right.
Paige points out that the, quote, benefits the parents had been collecting all these years were actually caregiver distributions from Nana Ruth's trust. And those distributions explicitly ended on Paige's 25th birthday.
Right, so we really need to translate the legalese here to understand the trap the parents fell into.
Please, dear.
Think of a legal trust, like a highly secure, timed vault. A caregiver distribution means the parents were essentially only being paid the interest generated by the vault while Paige was a minor.
Okay.
They were paid to maintain her. But the remainder, the actual vault itself, which contained the principal wealth and the deeds of the parents' fancy house on Linden Road, that was programmed by Nana Ruth to unlock solely for Paige on her 25th birthday.
Which is the exact date of this dinner.
Precisely. The parents legally only owned the temporary interest stream, not the vault itself. They spent a fortune on lawyers to draft a document cutting Paige out of their own personal will, entirely missing the fact that a trust bypasses a will entirely.
I mean, it is like the parents spent months drawing up legal documents to evict Paige from a house, completely unaware that Paige was the one sitting across the table holding the deed to the property.
Yes.
They were aggressively arguing over the wallpaper while she legally owned the foundation.
That's exactly it. And abusers often suffer from this specific type of intelligence blind spot. Because Diane and Wesley lacked empathy, they viewed Paige purely as an asset, right? A submissive line item.
Right.
They lacked the imagination to realize she was a fully autonomous adult capable of quietly going to the county clerk, hiring a lawyer, and auditing their legal standing.
They brought a financial threat to someone who was entirely self-sufficient. I mean, Paige's power in that moment didn't come from matching her mother's cruelty. She didn't yell.
No, not at all.
She relied on process and emotional regulation. She had her own career and her own savings. As Paige herself noted, the strongest position in any room isn't the one holding the biggest number. It's the one that doesn't need the number at all.
By not needing their money, she neutralized their only weapon. She stripped them of all leverage.
But, securing her financial independence didn't solve her deepest problem.
No, it didn't.
Because while her legal boundaries were bulletproof, her emotional ones were still terrified of being loved. Which brings us to what happened just 6 months before this dinner and the incredible climax at table 9.
The financial victory is satisfying, obviously.
Yeah.
But the emotional journey is really the core of this deep dive.
It really is. So 6 months prior to the dinner at Van Ter, Paige had accessed the state adoption registry and found her birth family.
Which is a huge step.
Massive. She found her biological mother, Susan Hale, who had written her a letter with the line, "I never stopped saving you a seat."
Oh, I love that line.
Me too. She also found a half-brother named Danny, who immediately started texting her memes as if no time had passed. And she found her fierce birth grandmother, Pearl, who took one look at her and said, well, there she is.
Yet Paige's reaction to finally finding a welcoming family reveals the deep scars of her transactional upbringing.
Yeah, she was completely terrified. There's a moment where Susan calls her one day just to chat. No agenda, no requests, just wanted to hear her voice. And Paige actually had to pull her car over to the side of the road and sob.
Yeah.
Why does a friendly phone call trigger that kind of breakdown?
Because trauma wires the brain to expect an invoice.
Expect an invoice. Wow.
Think about it. Paige had spent 25 years believing that being needed was the only way to earn a place in someone's life. Being needed means you produce, you stay quiet, you cost nothing, and in exchange, you avoid being discarded.
Right.
When someone calls just to chat, they're signaling that they want you, but they do not need you to perform a service. For someone raised on a ledger, a relationship with no job attached is system shocking.
That makes a lot of sense.
The brain flags it as dangerous because there are no clear rules for how to pay for your seat.
And she kept trying to pay for things when they went out, right? Constantly trying to buy her way into their good graces until Pearl finally stopped her and said, "You don't have to buy your way in here. We already paid."
Such a powerful moment.
And that incredible realization brings us right back to the restaurant. Paige looks across the table at Diane, who has just realized she has lost control of the trust, the house, and the daughter she viewed as an asset.
Yeah.
And Paige calmly says, "My birth family is sitting 3 tables behind you."
I mean, the visual of this scene is just cinematic.
Totally. Diane turns around. And there, sitting quietly at table 9 are Susan, Pearl, and Danny.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall.
Seriously. As Paige stands up and walks toward them, her birth family all stand up. They do not approach the parents, they do not scream, they just stand on their feet to welcome her.
And Diane completely loses her mind.
Oh, she loses it. The woman who wore board meeting cashmere, who planned this public ambush down to the syllable to prevent a scene, starts screaming in the middle of this quiet, upscale restaurant.
The mask completely slips, and her choice of words in that moment is incredibly telling.
Right, because she screams about the money. She is shouting, "After everything we paid for, after everything we did for you." Wow. She is humiliating herself, proving to the entire restaurant exactly who the real family is. Diane is shouting about sunk costs and depreciated assets, while Susan is just silently holding Paige's hand under the table.
It's just the perfect contrast.
It is. But I have to ask, how does someone like Paige actually begin to unlearn that lifetime of conditional love? You don't just flip a switch after one dinner.
No, definitely not. Unlearning conditional love requires exactly what Paige found, which is a chosen environment that consistently refuses to accept your payment.
Refuses to accept your payment.
Exactly. Healing requires testing those new waters. And Paige admitted she actively tested her new family in the beginning. She would abruptly cancel plans, just to see if they would punish her or withdraw their affection.
Oh, to see if they would drop her like her adoptive family would have?
Right. But when they didn't, when they simply responded with, "No worries, we'll catch you next time," the knot she had carried in her stomach since she was 9 years old finally started to loosen.
That's amazing.
You rewire that trauma by allowing yourself to be wanted without providing a service over and over again.
Which she finally allowed herself to do. Because before walking away from her adoptive parents forever, Paige leaves the trust schedule face up on the tablecloth.
What a move.
Right. She walks over, sits down at table 9, and eats a slice of chocolate cake. But this one has a single candle in it because her new family actually wanted to celebrate her, not because it was the one nice thing allowed that month.
It's just a profoundly powerful full circle moment.
It really is. So let's look at the fallout of this, because the aftermath is exactly what you would expect from people who live entirely by the spreadsheet.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Within a year, Paige's adoptive parents are forced to sell that beautiful house on Linden Road.
Poetic justice.
Definitely. Without Paige's benefits paying the freight, they literally cannot afford the foundation they were standing on. And Wesley, the father who sat silently and chose his own financial comfort over protecting his daughter, eventually texts her a week, "I am sorry, a full year too late."
And her response to that text demonstrates the ultimate application of her power.
Absolute silence. She never replies. She just lets the silence hold the boundary.
It's the strongest response she could have given.
Absolutely. You might not have a secret trust fund unlocking on your 25th birthday or an elaborate adoption reveal at a Michelin star restaurant, but ask yourself, how many relationships in your own life operate on a hidden ledger?
That's a great point.
How often do you shrink yourself down or stop asking for things just to make the arithmetic easier for someone else? Paige's story leaves us with a brilliant piece of advice. If someone in your life only values you when you are useful to them, that is not love. You need to stop auditioning for a seat you already deserve.
It makes you wonder, though, as we look at the mechanics of all human connections. If all relationships contain some form of unwritten social contract, a give and take of time, energy, and resources, where exactly is the line between healthy mutual support and a toxic emotional ledger?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Right. Like, when does the natural act of being helpful to the people we care about quietly cross the line into paying for your seat?
That is the exact question to sit with. When the math is finally put away, you have to look around and see who is still sitting at the table when you have absolutely nothing left to offer them.